Right now on Morning News Now, deadly school shooting, yet another one. 19 young children and 2 adults killed when a gunman opened fire inside the Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas. That's just west of San Antonio. Overnight, families waited at this reunification center for news. This morning, the small community now trying to figure out why this happened.
My heart was broken today. We're a small community, and we'll need your prayers to get us through this.
Well, on top of those prayers, President Biden and some lawmakers are calling for action, especially with this tragedy happening just 10 days after the mass shooting in Buffalo, New York.
I'd hoped when I became president I would not have to do this again.
This only happens in this country and nowhere else. Nowhere else do little kids go to school thinking that they might be shot that day.
This morning, flags across the U.S. are at half-staff. The investigation already underway into what led to this shooting as the hearts of Uvalde and the nation break over another senseless tragedy.
Here's what we know about the shooting. Yesterday morning, police say the 18-year-old gunman shot his grandmother, then drove toward Robb Elementary. After he apparently crashed a pickup truck nearby, investigators say the gunman went to the campus and started shooting inside the school, a school for kids in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grades. At least 19 students and 2 teachers were killed. It's unclear how many others were injured. State officials say the gunman was carrying a rifle and wearing body armor. He was eventually shot and killed by police. Let's bring in NBC News reporter Wendy Woolfolk, who is in Uvalde for us this morning. So, Wendy, what is the latest on the ground there? What are law enforcement officials saying about the attack at this time?
Joe, good morning to you. It's been a somber, stormy night here in South Texas. A 4th grade teacher who was shot while protecting her students survived an intense surgery overnight. But with others still in the hospital, the death toll here could still rise.
And Wendy, we know state investigators say the gunman had a rifle. We don't know if any other guns were used. Do we at this point know how the gunman may have gotten his hands on any weapons? And do we know anything about a possible motive at this time?
Investigators are searching for a motive, like I'm sure the entire country at this point, Joe, wants to know the answer to the senseless question, why? We do know that he did buy these 2 guns in the area either on or just after his 18th birthday. It's very recent, like in the last week or 2. Exactly how he went about doing this, how he made the plans to do so, they are looking for that motive. They are scouring his social media accounts. They believe he possibly alluded to wanting to harm someone there, but they have to confirm and go back painstakingly, step by step. You also mentioned that he shot his grandmother before coming to this school. We do know she has survived, and hopefully at some point investigators will be able to talk to her and possibly shed some light on what happened here.
It was a state senator who said he was told that the young man bought guns on his 18th birthday. What's unclear at this point is if those were the weapons that were used in this shooting. Wendy, I also want you to tell us more about the victims at this school. While authorities have not officially released any names, we are hearing from some of the families who are telling us more about the victims, both the kids and a teacher. What can you tell us about some of those victims?
We know that this school behind me was one of about 600 kids. They ranged in age from 7, 8, and 9-year-olds. Joe, they were wrapping up the school year as we all do, and they were having a fancy day, a footloose and fancy day. So they all came here with their nice clothes on, expecting to celebrate ending another school year. And tragically, 19 kids and 2 of those teachers won't be going home. There are faces, there are stories behind each one of them, and not just the 21 families who lost people, but this is a tight-knit community. We are about 70 miles from the border with Mexico, South Texas, and everybody knows everyone here. It's a small tight-knit community. And if you didn't lose someone in that senseless shooting last night, Joe, you know someone who did. And it's a grieving, it's a shock, and frankly, people are just still numb walking around here. I don't know that anyone will ever really get over it. The school certainly will never be the same. The community never be the same. And they are just asking and pleading for people to pray. They think at this point that's the only way that's going to get them through.
And I know we're actually hearing from some people in the community. I believe we do have some sound from people. Let's take a listen to that.
It's really hard to see what happened today here. As a grandma, yeah, it is very hard. I can't imagine going through that with one of my grandkids. My heart is broken for the parents here in Uvalde. It's never thought something like this would happen in a small town and friendly as Uvalde.
We've learned through family the names of one of the teachers who was killed, Eva Morales, who's been teaching for 17 years. Wendy Woolfolk, thank you so much for your reporting this morning. We appreciate it.
Now we want to play you an interview from a man who says he visited his wife. She's a teacher at the school. He was there just minutes before this horrific shooting happened. Take a listen to his account.
They were close to, matter of fact, I had just taken her some flowers. And the minute I got in my pickup, I heard a couple of shots. And then immediately the police were there. And her class and everybody that was around her got in the cafeteria and just kind of turned off the lights, got on the stage, started papering the windows. She said the kids were real good, real quiet, and did what they were supposed to.
And your wife is okay?
Yeah, she's good.
And why were you bringing her flowers?
She's retiring Friday.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So she's done. Thank goodness. As soon as I walked off to get in my truck, she went in the cafeteria because they were having a program. And as soon as she heard the, whatever their call sign is to get buckled down, she got them all up on the stage. And I'm sure there was other teachers with her doing their deal. I heard two pops. And then immediately a policeman drove up to my truck. And I said, with his lights going on, I said, what could I possibly have done wrong? And he said, we have a shooter. He said, you need to go. Okay. So turned around and backed out.
And is she still in there? Well, who's inside?
Yeah, she's still in there.
Oh, can you describe what's going on inside?
They're getting their names and all the room numbers of the teachers that are still in there and trying to get transportation back to the school. And I'm going to go get my truck ready to haul whoever I can to go get there, see if they can get their vehicles.
President Biden delivered an emotional address to the nation last night following the shooting in Texas. He called on Congress to act and take up new gun control reforms. The violence at Robb Elementary School comes less than 2 weeks after 10 people were killed in a mass shooting at a supermarket in Buffalo, New York, and nearly 10 years since the tragedy at Sandy Hook Elementary School where 20 children were murdered. NBC News Digital White House reporter Shannon Pettypiece joins us now. So, Shannon, what was the president's main message last night?
Well, I mean, his speech at times was emotional, at other times it was angry, but overall it was a call on lawmakers to act, because at this point there is only so much the president can do that's left from the executive branch. There are some steps he has tried to take as president, but he said right now it is up to Congress, it is up to lawmakers. And he used some very strong words, specifically calling out the gun lobby and telling lawmakers to stand up to the gun lobby. Here's a bit more of what he had to say.
Why are we willing to live with this carnage? Why do we keep letting this happen? Where in God's name is our backbone to have the courage to deal with it and stand up to the lobbies? It's time to turn this pain into action for every parent, for every citizen in this country. We have to make it clear to every elected official in this country, it's time to act.
And as far as whether officials are going to act, there are not enough votes in Congress right now to pass gun control legislation in any current version. But the president says he really would like to see is an assault weapons ban and universal background checks for everyone who goes to buy a gun.
Shannon, we know the president also takes on the role of consoler in chief during times like this, something that we saw last night. I mean, this is something that's personal to him, losing a child. What kind of message did he offer to the parents who just lost their child?
Well, right. In addition to this call for action, he talked about the pain that he knows firsthand from his experience of losing not only his son, but his wife and his baby daughter decades ago, that they feel in this moment. Ask the country to offer their condolences and prayers for them. And here's a bit more of what he had to say.
To lose a child is like having a piece of your soul ripped away. There's a hollowness in your chest. You feel like you're being sucked into it and never going to be able to get out. Suffocating. And it's never quite the same. Give the parents and siblings the strength in the darkness they feel right now.
And you mentioned those remarks in Buffalo, or the Buffalo shooting less than 2 weeks ago. It was exactly a week to the day yesterday that he was in Buffalo meeting with the families of the victims and the first responders in that shooting, and giving a very similar speech, talking about the pain of those family members, and yet again, a call for action. And this is something the president said he continues to hope he will never have to do again. But unfortunately, all signs indicate that this is something he will face again in the remainder of his time as president.
I mean, so Shannon, given the president's background on fighting for stricter gun laws, especially after Sandy Hook, do you expect this might recharge the White House, that the White House will try and make this a priority and take the lead on any gun reform bills?
Well, certainly we saw after Sandy Hook a resurgence in the debate around gun control and the protests following that really did not do much to change the reality of the situation. There have been some changes around the margins, and the president has been taking some executive actions. We are now in an election year. I'm sorry to make this about politics, but in an election year, things don't get done in Washington. We are certainly very close to the summer campaign season heating up. And in all likelihood, Republicans will take control of either one branch or both branches of houses of Congress, even further reducing the odds that there is any gun control legislation that gets passed, at least in the 2 years ahead, if that were to happen.
Shannon Petty-Peace, thank you so much.
Well, the shooting is once again reigniting the debate over gun laws. Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy, who was elected just weeks before the 2012 mass shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School, well, he took to the Senate floor and gave an impassioned plea to his colleagues.
This isn't inevitable. These kids weren't unlucky. This only happens in this country and nowhere else. Nowhere else do little kids go to school thinking that they might be shot that day. Nowhere else do parents have to talk to their kids, as I have had to do, about why they got locked into a bathroom and told to be quiet for 5 minutes just in case a bad man entered that building. Nowhere else does that happen except here in the United States of America, and it is a choice. It is our choice to let it continue. But I'm here on this floor to beg, to literally get down on my hands and knees and beg my colleagues. Find a path forward here. Work with us to find a way to pass laws that make this less likely.
NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ali Rafa joins us now with more. Ali, good morning. We just listened to Senator Murphy literally begging his colleagues in the Senate to do something. He said they don't have to agree with him on everything, but they have to do something. What is the reaction this morning?
Yeah, Vicki, an extremely emotional speech on the Senate floor by Senator Murphy yesterday. Well, when our team went around asking lawmakers for the reaction to this shooting, several of them told us that they were learning about it for the first time from us. So we were able to see their real and raw reaction. They were reactions of disgust, of horror, of disappointment, because this is happening yet again. We saw Democrats like, as you played, Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut, the state where Sandy Hook Elementary School, where that shooting took place almost a decade ago, come December. Once again, he pushed for legislation for gun reform, as you played in the clip, literally begging his Republican colleagues to make changes here. Republicans, meanwhile, are really not having the appetite for this. We caught up with Senator Ted Cruz and John Cornyn of Texas, and while they both were extremely emotional and expressed their disappointment in this, they're sticking with their beliefs on where things are right now. They're saying that gun reform should take place in the form of more law enforcement in schools, hardening of schools, teaching teachers how to use guns in schools rather than restricting gun rights for citizens. And Cruz rejecting the idea of these stricter gun laws, calling for more law enforcement on school campuses. Listen here.
We are seeing way too many of these horrific mass murders, and we need to devote far more law enforcement resources to stopping violent criminals, preventing these kind of absolute acts of evil. You know, inevitably, when there's a murder of this kind, you see politicians try to politicize it. You see Democrats and a lot of folks in the media whose immediate solution is to try to restrict the constitutional rights of law-abiding citizens. That doesn't work. It's not effective. It doesn't prevent crime.
Now, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said in the aftermath of that racially motivated shooting in Buffalo, New York, that he wouldn't put a vote on the Senate floor because he knew it was destined to fail in this 50-50 Senate, that Democrats wouldn't have the votes to even pass a filibuster. But Vicki, this issue has suddenly shot to the top of the legislative agenda. We're likely to have even more reaction from lawmakers on Capitol Hill today, possibly even a vote on some legislation soon.
As you said, as Shannon Pettypiece said, there aren't enough votes. This is divided along party lines. What are lawmakers saying about how to prevent guns from getting in the hands of dangerous people then?
Yeah, so there are already 2 House bills that have passed in the House and have stalled in the Senate. These are 2 bills that would expand background checks. Specifically, one of them would expand background checks for all firearms sales or transfer in the country, because currently background checks are not required for sales by unlicensed and private sellers. The second of them would close what has become known as the Charleston loophole, that loophole that allows licensed gun sales to go through before required background check is done. Those have already been drafted. Those have already been voted on in the House. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer took action last night to actually not necessarily schedule a vote on these, but basically get it to the next step so that when the Senate is ready, that this is already in place to then take a vote on the Senate floor. We don't know exactly when a vote could take place. We know senators are expected to leave for a Memorial Day recess on Thursday, so it could take place when senators come back. It's really up in the air right now, Vicki.
Ali Rafa, thank you.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.